The Tesla Model 3 is likely the pinnacle of what Tesla represents in the automotive landscape. The Model 3 has single-handedly elevated the EV market to levels never seen before. Since its release, it has been the best-selling electric vehicle on the road. The Model 3 aims its sights squarely on compact executive cars like the BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, and Mercedes C-Class. These cars are the titans of their segment, and the Model 3, much like Zeus, is looking to harness electricity and rain down lightning upon their heads. The one we have here is a Model 3 Performance. In performance trim, this Model 3 competes against the highest performance versions of the German benchmarks, the M3, RS4, and AMG C63. Not long ago, the idea of an electric car being able to go toe-to-toe with these staples of four-door performance was unthinkable. But during the time we spent with the Model 3 Performance, any doubts we had that it wouldn't be able to compete with these cars in terms of performance were quickly erased. Yes, there are some flaws, which include the typical issues we have with Teslas, but in and of itself, we came away convinced that the Model 3 Performance is a great car. Admittedly, the front styling of the Model 3 has always been a bit daffy to me. Yes, that is a duck reference, but at least it's an angry duck, because when it comes to performance car styling, the angrier a car looks, the better. Anger is tied to aggression, and that's what we expect from the fastest and sharpest cars on the market. It grew on me the more I looked at it. Perhaps in a world where a BMW looks like this, being an angry duck isn't such a bad thing. The lighting is full LED as one might expect from a car this dedicated to technology, and the thick daytime running lights add to the aggressive appearance. One might think being subtle is easy to pull off, but in fact it can be quite hard. There's a fine line between subtle and boring, and Tesla does a great job of being on the right side of the fence with the Model 3. Well-placed accent lines along with bulging fenders make the Model 3 aggressive in the most understated sort of way. The standard 20-inch gray performance wheels come wrapped in 235/35 Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber front and rear. Along with the red painted brake calipers, these additions hint at the Model 3 Performance's capabilities. Looking at the Model 3, you might think it's a hatchback, but in fact it has a normal trunk. For some reason, Tesla opted not to give it an electric tailgate, which seems like a no-brainer for this class of car. Although Tesla recently announced updates for the Model 3 and a power trunk is included. Unfortunately for current owners, this isn't something you can simply download. The Model 3 is rated at 15 cubic feet of cargo space, the trunk is roomy, there's additional storage underneath the floorboard, and the rear seats fold flat for even more space. If that isn't enough, there's also a front trunk. Viewing the Model 3 from the rear, the car's cabin has a shape that makes it look like a bubble car. It's subtle but distinctive, and much like a bubble car, the entire roof of the Model 3 is made of glass. The glass is tinted with ultraviolet and infrared protection. A glass roof may raise concerns about rollover safety, but Tesla claims the glass is strong enough to support the weight of 2 fully grown elephants. Being the performance model, this car comes equipped with a thin carbon fiber spoiler. We did notice it seemed to be coming undone a bit. As Tesla lovers tend to get very angry whenever someone says something negative about these cars, don't kill the messenger for pointing it out. I am using the guest key you see here. It comes in the form of a card, which is similar in size to a credit card. Tapping the card on the B-pillar will lock and unlock the vehicle. Keeping with the sleek design, the door handles are flush with the body. They swing out when pushed, but I find these types of handles aren't the most intuitive, and if you're carrying something in your hand, they can be annoying to use. Either way, they are stylish and a nice talking point for someone who hasn't seen them before. The inside of the Model 3, like other Teslas, is very minimalist in its design. The Model 3's dash has 0 buttons, and everything can be found on or is run through the 15-inch touchscreen display. That includes driving information such as the car's speed, as there is no traditional gauge cluster. As any of you who have watched my videos know, I hate touchscreens. But Tesla has done a good job of making this one intuitive once you get used to it. Originally, I thought not having all the driving information in front of me in a gauge cluster would be weird, but I adapted to it almost immediately. I still think having at least a heads-up display would be nice. The rest of the dash is just one solid slab. There aren't even traditional air vents. There's an opening that runs the length of the dash, which provides air ventilation. If you want to change where the air is blowing, you of course have to do it through the center touchscreen. Even opening the glove compartment must be done via the touchscreen. A lot of these actions can be taken in this car by using voice commands, but again, I still find it more convenient to have tactile buttons or knobs in certain situations. The owner of this car has taken some liberties with adding white wrapping to parts of the interior. As it's not a standard feature, I will keep my opinions about that to myself. Tesla Mob, get your comment fingers ready for what I am about to say. Overall, the fit and finish of this interior, much like other Teslas, does leave something to be desired. When compared to German competitors, many of the plastics feel cheap. It's possible to overlook a lot of this after a while, but when taking a closer look, it's hard to miss the lack of quality. Then again, because the interior is very minimalist, there isn't that much to look at anyway. That's all I'm gonna say, and now I'll leave it alone. The seats are very comfortable and ultra soft, but they do lack when it comes to lateral support. Once you start taking turns at speed, there is a need for more bolstering to keep you in place. The steering wheel is nice and feels good to grip onto. It contains 2 buttons that can control a number of functions, including media and voice commands. The stalks behind the steering wheel control the drive selection, as well as cruise control and autopilot. Tesla doesn't offer Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but their system for media and maps is pretty good. However, it still would be a good option to have. The center touchscreen does offer all the typical Tesla foolishness. There's the fart noise maker, a sketch pad, video games you can play using the steering wheel and pedals. We tested a Model S not too long ago, and I think I like the landscape orientation of the Model 3 screen better. It's also a more natural way to watch YouTube videos, which you can do in the Model 3 through its full suite of entertainment options that include Netflix and YouTube. All of these features are great to have if you're sitting at a charging station. While we had the Model 3 Performance, we did charge it a number of times. It's a process that can seem daunting at first, but after a while you start to get used to it. Charging at home would still be the preferred option, and as more supercharging stations become available, finding a place to charge will be less of a hassle. This Model 3 Performance is rated at 299 miles of range on a full charge, but with the coming update, the Model 3 Performance should have a range of 315 miles. The rear space is much like the front. It's comfortable, but not much going on. There are 2 USB ports and air vents, and cup holders in the fold-down armrest. The flat floor means middle passengers can remain fairly comfortable, and there's even a small space to place your feet. With all the cameras around the car, another nice feature is Sentry Mode, which will record any activity going on around the car when it is secure. That way, if someone tries to break in the vehicle or dings your door, you can get a good look at the culprit. When returning to the vehicle, the car will tell you if there are any recorded incidents. We did run into a software glitch when trying to pull up the recorded video. For some reason, the car didn't want to bring it up. It's worth noting it did work perfectly prior to us recording. Perhaps the cameras got a bit camera shy. Because this car is quiet, it also makes an interesting sound when in reverse to get the attention of those around you. It does sound a bit ominous, kind of like something is coming to get you. Alright, driving the Tesla Model 3 Performance, and obviously one of the best things about driving this vehicle is you don't have to drive it. I've been on the highway probably about 20 minutes, and so far the car has pretty much been driving itself. Every now and then it will pop up, just like now, and it'll ask you to apply a slight turning force to the steering wheel. I mean, it's pretty much just touching the steering wheel and pulling it a little bit one way or the other. And the car will pretty much do the rest for you in terms of the steering, braking, so on and so forth. I don't have to do any of that. This is not complete self-driving, but what it is still really good. And it's really convenient. I mean, as someone who absolutely hates driving on highways, I love this feature. I can really just relax and let the car do everything. That by no way means that you should not be paying attention to what's going on around you, but the car definitely helps with relieving some of the stress of taking longer trips. In terms of drivetrain, the Model 3 Performance has two motors, one up front and one in the rear, making it all-wheel drive. Together, the motors make somewhere in the range of 450 horsepower and 471 pound-feet of torque. However, with the past update, the car received a power optimization and should have a bit more power. That means Tesla's quoted 3.2 seconds 0 to 60 mph time is a bit conservative. 3 seconds to 60 is definitely doable. Driving the Model 3 Performance is a unique experience. It's not aggressive and shouty like combustion-powered cars. If you like all the drama you'll find on something like a Mercedes-AMG, the Tesla Model 3 Performance will be a letdown. But if you're driving for the sake of driving, then this car will give you everything you want with plenty of reserve. Another nice feature on the Model 3 Performance is track mode. Track mode allows you to adjust a number of features such as handling, stability, and the regenerative braking system. It also offers better cooling, as well as video logging and telemetry data. Drivers are able to shift motor bias to 100% up front or 100% in the rear. That can effectively make the car either front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. When I think about the elements of owning an expensive performance car, there's three things that stand out. First, of course, it has to be quick. The Model 3 Performance is definitely quick in a mind-bending sort of way. With traditional powertrains, you have to downshift and climb up the RPMs while making a ton of noise in order to get going. The Model 3 Performance, by comparison, is ready to go silently and waiting at all times. That means you can get all those fun reactions from your unsuspecting passengers.
Well, it was early. Yeah, they built. Oh my God!
Why did you do that? Holy.
And then you can always do that.
You did that? Or you told it to?
I did that.
Oh,
I'm
nuts.
surprised it let us go that quick.
That quick.
Holy.
That was a little bit, that was nice.
What would you maybe consider if you're familiar with the whole idea of like 0 to 60 quarter mile?
I'm really bad with what was it, in the combine, the NFL combine, how fast a good time for the
40
yeah.
yard, yeah.
I'm always like oh, what is 4 seconds good or bad? Or, you know, like I'm always like, I hear
in 4 seconds. Like
4 seconds? 5 seconds?
So it's funny, when I was thinking about the question, I was like, 4 seconds would probably be a very popular answer to that question.
What's this?
How about 3 seconds? Just wanted to get your reaction on that.
You got it. I think my back popped. That was good.
Second, a performance car has to have great riding and handling dynamics that truly make it rewarding to drive fast, and this car provides that. The Model S, by comparison, was fast, but felt heavy and a bit numb. This car, even at over 4,000 pounds, feels light on its feet and eager to turn. Having most of the weight down low certainly helps. Around town driving was enjoyable in this car. Like most newer cars, the steering doesn't offer much feedback, but it's still well weighted, and because of the way the drivetrain is designed, you never feel like the car is being overwhelmed by the power. One of the coolest things about driving the Model 3 Performance and any of the other Teslas, honestly, they're all pretty ridiculously fast for the segments that they compete in, is the acceleration. The acceleration on this thing is just... I mean, I just don't, if you can't appreciate that, regardless of your old school, you know, whatever it may be, that your reservations about the idea of a battery powered vehicle, that type of acceleration is just intoxicating. We had the Model S Performance not too long ago, and that car of course was very fast, but it's something about this car. I know it's not faster than the Model S, but for some reason the acceleration to me in this is more exciting than it was in the Model S. Again, I know it's not faster. It kind of does feel faster sometimes. I feel like around town, darting and weaving around town, just, you know, popping between cars, just that quick kind of burst of acceleration. This car is so much better than the Model S. And I really think it comes down to just weight. This weighs about 1,000 pounds less than a Model S. And so it just has so much more personality and energy to it that I didn't see with the Model S. And I think that is probably why I am gonna go on the record and say, this is likely one of the best cars I've ever driven, just in terms of the way that it feels. I was skeptical. I was very skeptical to think that it was possible that a car could feel better than a BMW M3 or a Mercedes C63 AMG, and this car does. It is very well damped. The acceleration, again, is just brutal. The steering, you know, the steering is never gonna be great on these types of cars. I've just come to accept that the steering on these cars is never gonna be great, but the center of gravity is very low, and so it still feels flat and it still feels balanced. And last, cars like this should be eye-catching. This car received tons of attention everywhere I went. I lost track of how many people came up to me, asking me about it and wanting to get a closer look. I'm not sure how much of this is due to the styling or due to people being curious about the technology. And for some reason, kids in particular seem to marvel at this car. So while you might not receive second looks from John and Joe at your local Cars and Coffee, the 10-year-old in the supermarket parking lot will certainly do a 180. In conclusion, the Tesla Model 3 Performance is at least on par with its German rivals. If you want the drama that comes with internal combustion engines or a finely crafted interior, then you'd be better suited getting an Audi, BMW, or Mercedes. But if you're willing to lose those two things, with the Model 3 Performance, you're likely to gain a whole lot more. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. You can also find us on Instagram at rideXdrive.